This series of training videos is brought to you by the Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency and the Irrigation Training and Research Center of Cal Poly State University San Luis Obispo in order to assist growers with a new Irrigation Allocation Index program. This video sequence will address the background of the existing irrigation efficiency program. We will talk about the presence of seawater intrusion into the Groundwater Management Agency's service area. Several agricultural options have been approached in order to reduce pumping in the area. Data has been collected on the history of groundwater pumping since the implementation of the program. Finally, we will discuss a general recommendation that was put forth by ITRC. This map illustrates the Groundwater Management Agency's boundaries and the basin. The yellow areas also indicate the locations where seawater intrusion has occurred. Since the agency borders the Pacific Ocean, the coastal areas are the most affected. Here are two more detailed images showing seawater intrusion problems into the GMA area, which is caused by both regular groundwater pumping and, more specifically, pumping near the seawater-freshwater boundary. Here you can see the effects in both the upper and lower aquifers. The Irrigation Efficiency Program was developed after a series of actions taken by the Fox Canyon GMA. First, the GMA identified seawater intrusion as a problem. Next, all wells were required to have flow meters installed. This gave the GMA an idea of the volumetric water use on an annual basis. Out of the collected volumetric measurements, a time period to be used for the base water use amount was selected as the years 1985 through 1989. Next, a simple methodology was set up to establish an allocation. A base allocation was established based on the water use during that time period. The idea was that there would be a gradual 25% reduction in the allocation over the next 20 years. The second suggestion was to use an irrigation efficiency extraction allocation, or what will be referred to in this program as the existing IE program. The idea was that irrigators can use a higher allocation as long as they have an irrigation efficiency greater than 80%. Now let's go through the steps of the existing IE program. The GMA designed a program to encourage growers to irrigate efficiently. To assist with this, the GMA created a total of 5 weather stations. The data from these stations was used to establish a reference crop water use value for grass, called an ETO value, and the contribution of water use from rainfall was also estimated. The crop water use estimate values were then reported to growers for crops within the GMA area. These values were recorded in acre-feet per acre. The end result was that growers had to calculate their irrigation efficiency based on the recorded estimated crop water use values and their irrigated acreage. This table shows the values that were used to establish the existing irrigation efficiency program. This first column shows a list of the 5 GMA weather stations. The next column shows the annual ETO value of each station. The next column includes the total rainfall collected at the station. The next set of columns identifies the total effective rainfall that occurred at that station for 5 different major crops: avocados, lemons, oranges, strawberries, sod and celery, and vegetables. The value for effective rainfall is slightly different for each of these different crop types. The last set of columns show the total allowed water, reported in acre inches or acre feet. The final piece of information shown on this table is the irrigation efficiency calculation on the bottom of the table. Growers could take their allowed water value, multiply it by their irrigated acreage, and divide by the irrigation water applied. As long as the IE value was greater than 80%, the allocated value was approved. This graph represents the annual rainfall and reported groundwater extractions in the GMA area. These values were collected between 1985 and 2011. The black line with the diamonds corresponds with the left-hand vertical axis, and represents the groundwater extraction values in acre-feet per year. There was a trend between 1985 and 1989 with an average of about 165,000 acre-feet annually. Since that time frame, there's been a different trend of values, going up and down based on the amount of rainfall. The blue bars correspond to the right-hand axis, which indicates the rainfall values for each year. Some years had significant rainfall, above 20 inches, while other years had very low rainfall, with values below 10 inches. The groundwater extractions fluctuate based on these rainfall totals. For example, look at the time period between 2005 and 2009. The groundwater extraction increased from just over 100,000 acre-feet to about 140,000 acre-feet during that time period. Much of that difference was caused by low rainfall, as growers pumped more groundwater to compensate for the lack of precipitation. These annual fluctuations have to be taken into account in any type of allocation program for ag users. In 2009, Dr. Stuart Stiles of ITRC began working with strawberries on the Oxnard Plain. He was primarily interested in irrigation practices used on strawberries and trying to understand current grower strategies. At that time, Dr. Stiles became aware of the GMA's existing irrigation efficiency program. ITRC was then hired to evaluate the existing IE program. During the evaluation, ITRC identified a set of problems with the current program and developed a set of recommendations. First, it became clear that only minimal reductions in overall ag water use had occurred. As growers exceeded their base allocation values, some would switch to the IE program and improve their allocation amounts. The main issue is that the IE program overestimates crop water use and has created a false sense among growers that their efficiency is higher than it actually is. This material will be covered in future videos, but ITRC's basic recommendation was to start a new ag program. This concludes this introductory video sequence covering the history and background of the Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency's Irrigation Efficiency Program. Thank you for taking the time to go through the material. If you have any further questions, please contact the staff at the Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency.